There are so many girls who grow up without their fathers. And today, I'm talking about my very own daddy issues. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for the love. Thank you so much for the comments and the likes on my previous video. Today, I'm doing a little bit of another personal video. As you know, yesterday was Father's Day, and I just want to share my own story of not having my dad in my life. So my father passed away when I was only 7 years old. And my fondest memory of him and I together was every time we went to the shop and bought a push pop. I don't even think push pops exist anymore. But anyway, there was a thing that we used to, or rather I used to ask him to buy for me all the time. He was ill for a couple of months before he passed. So he passed away in June, just 2 months before my 8th birthday. So not having him in my life actually affected me in many ways. I know so many times when people speak about daddy issues, it often is thought of referring to maybe a girl struggling with relationships as a grown up, or it's deemed as a bad label for women. But it's, for me, my understanding of daddy issues is just not having, it's like a father wound. It's not having your father present or there with you as you were growing up, and it's normal to need that bond, to want that bond as a child, and not having it will actually leave certain effects for any individual. So in my case, when my dad passed, I still had my grandfather, who shortly passed away after that, and after they were both gone, some of my uncles or my lumen tried to take over and just be there for me as I was growing up, and I appreciate that so much. But there was still a gap. There was still that gap. I found myself so many times saying, when I was young, I wish my dad was here. I wish he was attending this meeting with me. Asking myself, oh, would he be proud of me now that I got an award, or now that I was elected as the school's president and I got to travel overseas? All of those things, every milestone or every just pivotal moment in my life, I keep asking myself, what would he say? Would he be proud? You see, trying to imagine the words that he actually uttered to me at that very moment. But I actually discovered as I was growing up that it actually did affect my interaction with any male figure. I found myself to be very scared for some reason. Maybe because he passed away when I was so young, and I wasn't really used to interacting in terms of formal, really sometimes deep conversations. It was difficult to even ask for something and say, okay. Every time I wanted to ask, I'll say, okay, but this is not my dad. I'll ask, and I'll always have those reservations to say, okay, maybe this is not my dad. And then how that affected me is that even in relationships, I'll find myself just not being comfortable with sharing, to say, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. Even my husband had to address that so many times, to say, listen, this is our marriage, this is us, we are building together. So if you withdraw or rather hold back certain things, there is no way of me knowing how to love you. There is no way of me knowing what you need. So I've had to learn as a grown up how to really allow him and open up and let him in as a male in my life. And I believe that had I had my dad, that would have made the transition into marriage a little bit easier. Okay, now coming to how it affected me in parenting, or rather as a parent. When we got married in 2016, we were staying in 2 different provinces. I was staying in Durban, KZN, and my husband was staying in Mount Olive, Eastern Cape. And I had just recently gotten a job, moved from Cape Town back to Durban, and we spent a couple of months apart. We had a long distance marriage I don't even want to say a couple of months, I think about a month or two. And we already had our daughters Bongosi before getting married. And I remember every time the up and down, weekends traveling down and Sundays traveling up back to Durban for work, and I was just like, this is not it. I would watch their interaction and you could see that they were like strangers. The child was not used to her father, and for me, every time it would just say, okay, what are you doing, Busie? Are you recreating your own childhood? What are you doing? Is this thing even working? And it wouldn't sit well with me. So having that father wound just always reminded me to say, no, you didn't have this, but it doesn't have to be the same for your child. So as a result, 2 months in, I decided to resign. I was working as a food technologist in Pinetown, Durban, and I decided, well, you know what? This is it. I wrote my resignation letter after speaking to my husband, who asked me so many times to say, are you sure? Is this what you want? Are you sure this is gonna work? But I was just like, no, I'm not coping. It's not sitting well with me. And we agreed, and I put in my resignation letter and we moved. In my head, I was just like, I want, you know, the thing of wanting to like kind of correct. You feel like I want to say the mistakes that my parents made, but again, my dad didn't decide to die at that time. It was just his time. But I didn't want that same childhood or that same thing of not knowing your dad or not having a close relationship with your father to happen for my daughter too. So that's why I resigned, which resulted in me being a stay-at-home mom for like 2 years after that. And I strongly do believe that it was because I did not have my father with me that I did not want the same thing for my daughter. So how we grow up and the father wound, aka daddy issues, does really affect how we make our decisions as grown-ups. And then with marriage, I actually wrote a post that I want to read. I think it was last year. We were celebrating Black Dads on Instagram, and I just want to read what I wrote in terms of just fatherhood and marriage and motherhood. I said, motherhood has definitely been a journey of self-discovery for me, and having my husband around has made me to understand God as both redeemer and restorer. You see, my dad passed when I was 7 years old, and that left me feeling rejected. Having a husband, or having my husband in our lives and observing how he is growing every day in his fatherhood role has helped me parent from a place of wholeness. I spent most of my childhood watching the woman in my life trying to be both mom and dad, and I have struggled with wanting to do it all, almost denying my husband his fathering role. So, okay, and then I ended it by saying thank you to my husband for being a present, affectionate, and loving father, even when circumstances didn't allow for him to have the exact same thing as a young boy. And I said he makes the responsibility lighter, and I am grateful I get to do this parenting thing with him. You see, that for me summarizes it. It's so beautiful to actually see the relationship that my daughter and my husband has. I always call it like a healing factor or a healing point in my life, to say that, okay, even though I did not have it for myself, it's actually so fulfilling and great to see the father-daughter relationship happen in front of me. And it's to say that also, if you actually did not have a relationship with your father and there's no way for you to have it anymore, it actually is so fulfilling when you get to see those the relationship. Because even in a case of just being a parent or being helpful to a child, even if you're not a parent yet, there is a healing factor when you actually make an effort to give somebody else something that you didn't have, the gift that you did not have. And to share on where I am now, I'll be lying if I say I still don't wish that my dad was here. I'll be lying if I say I still don't imagine what it would have been like for him to be present during my Lebola negotiations, to be there for my graduation, how he would be interacting with his grandchild. All of those things, I do imagine them. But it's just a constant thing of just, number one, witnessing the relationship that is healing, and also just a constant exposure, because I think, even though it can be viewed in a bad light, social media can be so contributes to a healing too, because you see how other dads are really making it a point for them to be present for their children. And also just having our spiritual father in our lives, just playing that spiritual role over us, fatherhood role rather, over us. And also having had my late father-in-law also play that role, and my uncles, just all of that has actually, I believe, made the wound a little bit, has healed the wound a little bit. So that is where I'm at, still navigating the healing, but I am at a much better space than I am. As I was saying, that I've been exposed so much, and I know how to handle male relationships better, how to handle my relationship better, and actually have fostered healing the father wound. So if you perhaps have had daddy issues, please let me know how you are navigating through that, and how you are living your life without having had a father in your life. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. Please do like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you again on my next video next Monday.